Welcome to Voices of Healing and Justice podcast. I'm your host, Misoguhle Mamhlongo, clinical psychologist here in South Africa, and I've got my lovely co-host, Dr.
I'm
Anissa
Dr.
McNeil.
Yes, I'm Dr. Anissa McNeil, and I'm the founder of the Mental Health and Social Justice Clinic. Miso, what a morning we have with us today on Voices of Healing and Justice podcast. Today, we're going to talk about something
Indeed.
hot, a hot
Mm-hmm.
topic in South Africa, the soft culture. We're going to talk about the
Yes.
soft culture versus the dedicated or the hustle culture.
Well,
So, Miso, can you tell us a
indeed.
little bit? What do the people say? What's the word on the curb about the soft culture?
Oh gosh, Dr. McNeil, this is a very hot topic in South Africa these days. Indeed, the soft culture versus the hustle culture. So obviously there's a lot of chats, especially around social media in regards to the so-called soft culture, the so-called soft life, and the hustle culture of hustling and making your way through. So obviously soft culture, basically we're looking at in regards to some sense of stability, some sense of peace, one spoiling themselves in whichever way, one living life, exploring things, having the capabilities to do such, and also just sharing it with some of their followers as well. And then we've got the hustle culture. So basically, people always grinding and working, maybe they don't have much time to kind of enjoy themselves as much. Maybe they don't actually get to express as much on social medias, but because they're constantly on the run, they're constantly on the go because they got to get something, they got to get their life together, they got to get whatever they need together. So definitely these are almost two polar opposites, and obviously having two different ways of seeing things and two different ways of living that very life of the so-called wish, whether you are hustling or whether you live in the soft kind of space.
And I just wonder, Miso, how does that exist in South Africa when we have
Mm,
such a high unemployment rate of our youth?
mm,
Anyone from
mm.
18 to 35, we have a 65 or above unemployment rate. So how
Indeed.
realistic is it to live this soft
Mm,
life? Is the
mm,
soft
mm,
life just a media? Is it just a media plot?
mm. Definitely, Dr. McNeil. I think that is a very crucial question indeed, because the reality is in South Africa right now, a lot of our youths do not have the capacity. So then basically, is it now saying, okay, those who have can kind of present that soft life, even though maybe it might not necessarily be 100% the case. And those who can't present the soft life, are they now having to over hustle, in the sense that putting them in situations where there's a sense of maybe shame, there's a sense of confusion, frustration, all because the reality is not all of us have got that sense of privilege to kind of have something to look forward to in terms of employment wise every day. So then definitely the social media aspect, Dr. McNeil, I think is very, very important. And in terms of, we want to say maybe it puts people in a space of not being realistic about things. And also maybe putting a sense of self-doubt in regards to individuals. So I think that's something we can also focus on as well. And just putting people in the space of soft life might not necessarily be materialistic things. Encouraging and so also mental health, the care of mental health within that soft, culture and that soft expectation. Whereas for also the hustle culture needs exactly the same, a sense of stability of mental health, and a sense of groundedness and the capability of, okay, even though maybe I might not live the complete kind of social media life that everyone is pushing. But at the end, if it's still bringing me a sense of peace, if it's still bringing me a sense of giving me what I need, then hey, why not?
Right. So what I want to talk about this morning a little bit is I want to interrupt this conversation and talk a little bit about the performance that we see a lot on
Yes.
social media. Like I'm hustling every day, but I'm going to
Yeah.
perform so that I live this soft life. So I want to just take away that performance. I'm done with that. I'm over that because we have over 65% of our youth that's just performing for social media. And if they're not
Yeah.
performing for social media, they have this depression that they're not meeting this expectation. They're not meeting the
Mm.
social norm of our society, which is a altogether lie. So I want to
Yeah.
talk about this lifestyle, this
Mm.
lifestyle that's called intentional and dedicated, because there is a
Mm.
time in your life where you need to hustle. Does that make sense?
Mm. Mm,
There is
mm,
a true time in
mm.
life, especially in your early 20s when you are just starting out, when you're getting everything together. There is a time for you to hustle, and then there is a time for you to just relax. Okay?
Yeah,
But
indeed.
you must be intentional and you must be dedicated about it, and it must be in balance. So we've got to
Yeah.
talk about miso. How do we get people to live this intentional, dedicated life in
Mm,
balance? In
yes.
balance.
Yes, indeed, Dr. McNeil. So I think one of the first concepts is just being realistic. People, yes, in as much as we can have a vision, we can have a dream, but we gotta be realistic, knowing that in this day and age, there's a lot of financial complications. Obviously, yes, in as much as money makes the world go round. But there are other aspects of it as well. So you need to be realistic in regards to, okay, if this is the life that I envision myself, as you said, Dr. McNeil, you first got to hustle for it. Fine. Then if you're hustling for it, indeed, and then eventually you're getting to the era of, okay, maybe that softness is starting to come about. But you still need to find a balance of when we say softness, what exactly do you mean? Softness cannot be in regards to going to the Maldives every year, or next year you're going to be going to Paris, or you're going to be going to Brazil. You got to be realistic, because maybe for you, yes, and as much as culture can present itself as external, as you said, spoiling yourself and everyone witnessing that. But sometimes you got to be realistic in terms of the menial things. So soft maybe is a sense of peace, right? So maybe sense of peace is being able to at least have a half a day or one day where you get to just do things that you enjoy. Maybe going to the spa, maybe going to having the capability to read a book the whole entire day without any noise, maybe also even finding yourself just buying that little bag every now and again that's not going to cost that much. So it's not this business of going to Bali and going to an expensive travel every 6 months. I need to travel and see the world. Be realistic. Where are you currently? Because also mentally as well, are you capable to fathom in regards to those needs and linking your actions to those needs? And see also as with the hustle as well, being realistic that yes, in as much as I need to hustle, I've got a certain goal that I need to get at a certain period of time in my life, but we cannot exhaust ourselves to such an extent that we actually will not reach that goal. By the time we might supposed to reach that goal, mentally we're not in a good space, physically we're not in a good space. So we need to genuinely find that sense of boundary, the sense of balance, and also just sitting down with yourself and be like, okay, I know everyone always says, oh no, when I reach my 30s, I will be married, being a housewife, having children. And then the reality sets in that, okay, maybe it might not necessarily be the case, but that does not mean that it's not going to happen, but just maybe not at the pace that you assumed. So putting yourself in the space of, okay, being realistic that I will get there. Maybe I've realized that there are certain things I need to change, or maybe certain things I need to add in order to get to that goal. But at the end of the day, let me not diminish and deplete my own self to get there. Because I mean, this is life. We live once, but it's a very, very long life as well. So people got to
Yeah.
remember that always.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you're trying to say to our audience, Miso, is in having this reality check, you need to have some practical goals, something that you
Yes.
do every day. So the second thing we want you to do in order to have this balanced life is to establish a daily practical practice. What can you do
Mhm.
every day that brings you some joy, that brings you
Yes.
some, oh, I'm living the soft life. And so, as
Yeah.
I shared with our listening audience yesterday, when I was in my 20s, Miso, I went to the university and I had two jobs. So I was that
Mm,
person that was always on the move. But I
mm,
established when I was in at the university that every day at 3 o'clock, no matter where I was, I worked at a primary school. And when the
mm.
bell would ring and all the kids would leave the class, I would turn on my music and I would dance. And I would dance for a good 10, 15 minutes. And I would be in
Yes.
that classroom just cleaning up and
Yes.
moving stuff. And I would just be dancing. And that is a daily practice that I have
Mm,
carried out throughout my life. And so when I
mm.
turned in my 30s and 40s, I changed that music from hip hop to Michael Jackson. So every day at 3 o'clock, play off the wall. I get my jam on to Michael Jackson, but that's something that I do every day. no matter, and it brings me so much joy. And I get to try out the wonderful new dances and do some old dances and make silly faces and move around. It brings me joy. So I think what
Mm,
we're encouraging ourselves, a part of this balance is to have this daily practice. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't need to make sense to anybody else, but it needs to bring you joy. It needs to bring
mm,
you some happiness that when you
mm.
do it every day, you look at yourself. And I do it every day, me. So I look at myself and I say, girl, you living off the wall. Go, go, go.
Yeah.
It brings me
Yes.
joy. So I would like for
Mhm.
our listeners to one, do what you said. One, be realistic. Okay, this is my reality. Two, have a daily practice. And what is that third thing, Miso? What's the third thing that they can do to have this
And also,
balanced,
mm,
intentional, dedicated life?
intentional indeed, Dr. McNeil. Living with a purpose as well is something I think is very important that we inform our viewers and listeners. Living with a purpose, as you said, finding ways, finding things which you are passionate about as well, and also just kind of living that sense of joy. At least if it's not even for those 10 minutes, you gotta allow yourself to just at some point just find that little mini bits of happiness on that day with the daily activities, being realistic, having a sense of purpose as well. And also just I think what's important, Dr. McNeil, is excuse me, the sense that with this life, sorry, 2 seconds, Dr. McNeil.
That's okay.
Apologies.
No, no
Yeah,
problem.
apologies.
Yeah, I think
Sorry,
Miso
Dr.
is
McNeil,
having some
yes.
connection. That's okay. We're going to work through it. But we're
Yes.
talking
Ref
about also having this point of reflection. Number three is
reflection,
to
yes.
reflect. You got to be able to balance this all out. And just like you were saying, Miso, if you have this goal, you're trying to get to this goal, then you must be able to reflect and measure. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What when we talk about that in the mental health space, can you help us with that?
Reflection has become such a common word out there. Everyone is always reflecting. I need time to reflect. Let me allow myself to reflect. Reflection is not that complicated, but it takes a lot of work. So basically, we have a situation here where this is the soft culture that I'm assuming that I need to be. Now I've figured out that maybe this is the way to which I can attain it. So now obviously putting in that daily activity the sense of motivation and the purpose for it. So now, okay, but still, I'm not necessarily where I need to be, one. Or two, maybe the so-called soft culture is not what I imagined it to be, even though I'm now living it. So, example, reflecting on the sense of, okay, so this is what had envisioned. These are the actions that I took. Okay. So then, and this is the reality currently. So then, okay, this is what having had done this, okay, then I realized, okay, maybe minus the number two, minus the number five. Okay, so is it really what I want? Is it really what I assume that it would be? So when we say
Mhm.
reflecting, taking accountability of, okay, maybe I made it, for example, bigger than what it's supposed to be. Okay, or maybe I tended to want to show it off. Maybe I realize now that, the reason why I wanted this so-called soft culture was to show off because everyone else is showing off. So the ability to reflect of, okay, maybe that's not what I want to say. Maybe, for example, soft generally means having the sense of peace of being able to take a walk after a long day of work, and being able to just breathe in and also being able to kind of the following week taking myself out on my to a restaurant, maybe for example. No, so that's an example of a reflection where just basically sitting down with yourself, being true to yourself, being honest with yourself, and and maybe
Mhm.
accepting the space to which way maybe you did not do so well, or maybe you did something and you realized you didn't feel as good as you thought you did, or maybe you realized actually I felt really quite bad, or I was hurt or sad, or I was confused. So sitting with all of that and then just replanning out in regards to, okay, having had recognized all of this, having had seen, okay, maybe where the shortcomings are, okay, so what can I try next time, to do, or
Mhm.
exactly where do I fit for myself as well, including with the hustle culture as well. Maybe realizing and reflecting that, you know what, maybe I've been too hard on myself, or maybe I'm not necessarily finding the so-called peace that I thought that I would get, and just taking a step back and be like, okay, you need to relax, Miso. So those are one of the examples of just reflecting of sitting with yourself, coming to realize, okay, maybe this is not it, but coming to also find means to make sure that you get what you think is at that particular point in time.
Wonderful, Miso. And our fourth and final suggestion is support. The one thing I love about what you said, Miso, is yourself. Yourself. This dedicated and intentional living requires that you dedicate yourself to yourself. You owe
Yeah.
it to yourself to have a great life, not just a great life, a wonderful life. And so if you take that moment of reflection, and you look at yourself and you say, wow, I really don't know what to do. That's the opportunity for you to say, I don't know what to do, but I believe in me. I know I
Yes.
want myself to have a great life, but I need some
Yes.
support. That's the time
Yes.
for you to pick up the phone, call the Mental Health and Social Justice Clinic, get the support that you need. Reach out and get the support that you need. And that's just not for the hustle culture. The hustle culture, you may want to get some support before you burn out. You want to get some
Um,
support before you feel like, Lord, my God, I'm doing everything that I can, but I still need to work this hard, God, this hard.
huh? Yep.
Get
Mm,
some support. And even in the soft culture, you're there
mm.
laying on the beach and you're bored out of your mind. Like, oh my Lord, I thought this was going to be all in all. I thought, okay, help me.
Yeah.
And you
Mm,
find yourself not being grounded, not living for the moment, living for the post,
mm,
living for the performance, and kind
mm.
of losing yourself. That's the moment where you got to get some support. It can go either
Yes.
way. But the wonderful thing about this is choosing you. Choosing you. I deserve to live a great life. And a great life has no definition. That
Yeah.
definition comes from you.
From
It
you.
only comes
Indeed.
from you. It
Indeed.
only can come from you. So that's what this episode was about. It was about getting all of us to see that we need to live a dedicated and intentional life with balance. And Miso, we're going to do that for the rest of our lives. This isn't something that's
Indeed.
going to happen in your
Mm.
20s or your 30s, and then you're going to go, "Whew, I'm done with that." You're going to constantly have to work at having. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, audience, for joining us on Voices of Healing and Justice today. My name is Dr. McNeil, and I'm signing off. And Miso.
We just moving forward with it. We just moving forward with it. Take care. Have a lovely week.
All right. Bye, everyone.